Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Erik Voss, and did Gambit survive the events of Deadpool and Wolverine? I mean, his daddy wasn't ramming them butter and nuts up in his mama, and he shot out there and said, "What up, doc?" for nothing. Channing Tatum's accent was actually pretty good. Mine was not. But a huge detail that I missed from the post-credit scene points to Gambit's actual fate from this film, and I'm going to break down what his role tells us about Ryan Reynolds' secret original concept for this movie and where we will see Gambit next. And before we begin, the best way to support New Rockstars is to grab one of our exclusive nerdy designed shirts, like this Ben Grimm The Beef Cousin shirt. It's like my favorite thing Nerdright has ever made. You can grab one of these and all other kinds of great designs over at nerdright.shop. Okay, in Deadpool and Wolverine, Channing Tatum's Gambit is the only Void Avenger, that's what I'm calling them, with no specific cinematic origin universe, or so we think. Wesley Snipes' Blade is from universe 26320. I'm assuming that since this movie codified the universe number of 10005 into cinematic canon, that they're probably going to do the same for all the other numbers that fans and followers had previously assigned to each distinct Marvel movie universe. Jennifer Garner's Elektra is from universe 701306, the universe of the 2003 Daredevil film and the 2005 Elektra film. Daphne Keene's X-23 Laura came from, well, Earth 10005, but I suppose from several years in the future than the point where Wade is from. Hey, I did try to fix this movie's broken timeline in this video. But Channing Tatum's Gambit isn't from any universe. His appearance in this film is an homage to the unproduced Channing Tatum Gambit movie first announced in 2014 and even given a release date of March 13th, 2020, but ended up in development hell and scrapped when Fox sold the rights to all of its film and TV properties to Disney starting in 2018 and really beginning in 2019. Directors attached to this Gambit film at various points included Rupert Wyatt, Doug Liman, Gore Verbinski, and even Sean Levy was approached. Tatum even learned sleight of hand card tricks from magician David Kwong for the role, but thankfully he does get to show off a lot of those moves here in this movie. His appearance in this film with the trench coat, metallic leg armor, purple chest plate with a blue collar, fingerless gloves, and headband matches the common appearance of the character from the 90s X-Men animated series and Marvel vs. Capcom 2, but specifically, his hair is not as messy and as tangled as those Gambits are, and his haircut actually looks closer to Michael Collins' original design of Gambit's first comic appearance in Uncanny X-Men number 266 in 1990. So in this movie, when Blade and Elektra talk about how they got into the Void, Gambit says, "Maybe I was born here. It's hard to know for sure." And Elektra later says, "Let's face it, our worlds forgot about us." And Gambit says, sadly, "Or never learned about us." And Elektra goes on, "The heroes we were." And Blade says, "The lives we saved." And Gambit just mutters, "Or wanted to save." But when the group breaks into Cassandra Nova's compound, Gambit says, "You know how long I've been waiting for this? Woo, I'm about to make a name for myself here." And during the battle, he truly does make a name for himself there. He has some of the sickest kills of the movie. But then he gets consumed by Alioth, along with Blade and Elektra and X-23 Laura, we think, because Laura gets extracted from the Void by B-15 and she joins Deadpool and Wolverine and the rest at the end of the movie for that big family dinner. But besides Laura, we never really see what happens to the other three. Blade and Elektra presumably could have returned to their home universes if B-15 was making good on her promise. That would mean 26320 for Blade and 701306 for Elektra. But where would Gambit go? Well, that brings us to the huge detail in the post-credit scene that answers this question. When Deadpool walks up to the TVA's monitor station to prove to us that Johnny Storm did actually say all those horrible things about Cassandra Nova, if you look over on the far left side of the frame, one of the screens shows Gambit in the Void. Our man survived. He is still down there. He may have actually taken over now that Cassandra is gone. And this shot is from no other part of the movie. It's not like this was some security camera footage like the angle Deadpool pulls up to show Johnny Storm's profanity-filled rant in that spherical cage. This angle of Gambit seems new. It is clear that Reynolds and Sean Levy wanted to convey that Gambit survived and that he is still down in the Void. Now, when he suggested, "Maybe I was born here," Gambit might have actually been accurate because he would represent a rare type of cinematic anomaly in this film's logic. A doomed project, unlike many other announced titles that we follow online, was actually on track to happen, but he just got hit with several layers of bad luck. If you've ever gone on a health kick, then you know how much better you feel when you're eating quality food. Is it any surprise that your dog feels the same way? If you want your dog to feel their best, Sundays for Dogs is the food for you, or for them, but the food for you to give to them. Sundays is fresh dog food made from a short list of human-grade ingredients. It's 90% meat, 10% vegetables, and 0% synthetic nutrients. Every order of Sundays ships right to your door, so you never have to worry about running out. It's super convenient. We have gone all in on Sundays over here at New Rockstars. Hank, Bubba, Jeff, Tilda, Gigi, and Darla all eat Sundays now, and it's great. Since giving our dogs Sundays, we've noticed a ton of improvements in their health. Softer fur, fresher breath, better poops, and more energy. Sundays doesn't require refrigeration or preparation because it's air dried. You can just pour and serve. If you're taking your dog on the road or on a trip, it's super easy to take some with you. Get 50% off your first order of Sundays. Go to sundaysfordogs.com/newrockstars or use code NEWROCKSTARS at checkout. Layer 1 would be, typical Hollywood delays of script revisions, director hires, scheduling, casting, contracts, all that stuff. Layer 2 would be the declining brand of the Fox X-Men franchise and the coming Disney buyout. And then layer 3, remember that original release date? Yeah, COVID. March 13th, 2020, that was the weekend American businesses began to shut down due to the pandemic. March 13th was specifically Friday the 13th. This Gambit movie never would have made it. It was doomed to have this bad luck. Doomed to development hell, which is kind of like an inside baseball term for the movie industry. It just refers to scripts who never really just make it a production for one reason or another. But I think that might have been an in-universe term in an earlier version of this movie. Jessica Clemons brought to my attention the idea that one of Ryan Reynolds' early ideas for this movie was that the entire plot structure was going to be a satire of the film industry. It was actually going to be closer to something like Who Framed Roger Rabbit or maybe even Singin' in the Rain, in which it wasn't the setting of the void from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but rather a literalized development hell. That's why, unlike the previous 2 Deadpool movies, this third film had so many inside baseball references to Hollywood, into the film industry, that most audiences outside of LA probably didn't fully appreciate. For example, Deadpool saying "death by day player" at one point. That's referring to actors and crew people who are contracted to work on set for a single workday and are normally paid a day rate. Deadpool lets an extra out of the Liefeld Foot Solution store, and he says, wait for the extras to clear. He goes, which is something people do on set while a take is resetting, and they wait for the extras to go back to one. And at one point, he even calls Night's Pool Cafe Gratitude, which is an incredibly deep cut, referring to an LA eatery with bizarrely named meals on the menu. Like, Deadpool made meta jokes in the first 2 films, but they were jokes accessible by anyone who followed these franchises as fans. But these and Deadpool and Wolverine are very LA specific. It's like following the Twitter account Americana at the Brand, which is so freaking funny, but really only if you live in LA. And to me, they suggest that Ryan Reynolds had carried these jokes over from a very different film that parodied how the film industry works. And actually, in pre-release interviews, Kevin Feige had indicated that Reynolds pitched a ton of different ideas for this film, and that Feige had helped add some element to the film concept to elevate its cinematic scale and make it a true Marvel Studios film. And I think Feige's note was to turn Ryan Reynolds' setting of development hell into the void of the TVA. And I say that because much of the TVA logic in this movie does not seem to be a logical priority for Ryan Reynolds in the writing and development of this film. The TVA, as explored in the Loki series, was a thematically deeper and aesthetically nuanced place that explores pointed existentialist philosophy while having to laugh at the mundanities of the workday and the absurdities of government, legal, and bureaucratic organizations. That does not at all seem to be the TVA of this movie. This movie just kind of uses the TVA as a means to an end. Miss Minutes doesn't even appear. Now, I don't think this movie disrespects what the TVA is all about in the Loki series, the way Multiverse of Madness brushes off the WandaVision events with "this isn't about what happened in Westview." It just kind of feels like someone at Marvel Studios, probably Kevin Feige, told Ryan Reynolds what the TVA was as a general concept, and that the TVA has a big junkyard full of meta Easter eggs and a big smoke monster guard dog, and that Ryan Reynolds should just use that, and he was just like, oh, okay, cool. All this is to say, I think Gambit is played by Channing Tatum as a holdover from the Void's original status as development hell, and his original arc was to end this movie as the king of development hell, the ultimate Marvel character trapped in development hell. Whereas all the other characters we met ended up in Marvel development hell after their franchises had died out, Channing Tatum's Gambit would have been the only one born in that hell because he never got off the ground. That's why his appearance looks like the original comic book appearance, because that would have been the concept art influences that the filmmakers used in the pitch for the film. He was just a thought dreamt up by his father, and I think they were referring to Chris Claremont, X-Men comics writer who developed the first story treatment for the unproduced Gambit film back in 2014. And since this Gambit film was slated to release on the Friday the 13th before COVID shut the world down, maybe Reynolds would have even had a joke about Gambit being like patient zero, and that's why he was trapped down there. Whatever, it was clearly important for Marvel Studios to show Gambit still alive in the void at the end of this film. And I think it's because they knew he would be a hit in this movie, and audiences would want to see him again. So assuming that they do turn the void into Battleworld and Secret Wars, I think Channing Tatum's Gambit's stock just rose to return in Secret Wars. Because as someone born in that landscape, escape. He's gonna know how to get around, maybe even how to tame Eliath. Because my hope is that the secret word that tames Eliath is the same nonsense word that they made up for Gambit to say in this movie. Sean Levy explained this to Variety, saying that they wrote most of the borderline nonsensical lines into the screenplay, but then Channing Tatum just went off from there and added a lot of Cajun and French flavor. For example, when he sees Hugh Jackman drinking his liquor and throws a charged up card his way, he says something that sounds a bit like "Couillenswa," and that's not even an actual word. It was just like gibberish that Channing Tatum ad-libbed. Anyway, I want that to be the magic word that tames Eliath. Do you want to see Gambit in Secret Wars, mon chéri? Again, I tried to do it and I failed. Comment down below with your thoughts on all this. Follow me at Erik Voss. Subscribe. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.